Do you believe in miracles? Well, I do, because one happened to me. Stay tuned. Welcome back to I Didn't Know That Was in the Bible. Today's topic has to do with miracles, or more specifically, one that happened to me many years ago. Now, this is sort of a little different than the normal type video that I usually do because it actually deals with something that personally happened to me. And this occurred back in 1977. Now, miracles do occur every day, and we may not realize it. I mean, every time a child is born or a new flower buds, that's a miracle of God. And then there's miracles that we may not be aware of. I mean, maybe one day you decide to take one road instead of another, and it turns out that an accident could have or may have occurred on that particular road that you were to travel. And even in incidences of life. I mean, the way you may have met your wife or husband, the way that you may have gotten a job. You happen to be at the right place at the right time. I mean, all of these are miracles. But they're not really evident. People can come up with various ways of explaining some of these things away. However, there are those bona fide miracles that do occur in one's life, not often, but they can occur. And one of those particularly happened to me, and this was back in 1977. Now, at the time, we had just learned that my father was ill. And that was a great blow to the family because my father had been more or less the rock of the family and seemed a very healthy individual, and it was very unexpected. So there was a lot of turmoil during that time. And just for the sake of relief during one of the weekends, I decided just to take a ride to get away from it all. And just to take a ride to a local mall where I can go to a bookstore and sort of lose myself in the books that were there. That was sort of my relief at that time. So I was traveling along in my car, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Bay Area, but I was on Highway 280, or Freeway 280, heading towards San Bruno. There was a mall over there called Tanforan Mall. Well, I was traveling along in the fast lane. I was going at the speed limit. And there's one portion of road that if you look off to the right, you can see towards the ocean. And it was a particularly beautiful day, and for a second or so I got lost in my thoughts, and I gazed off where I was traveling on the road as I was driving and glanced over to the right. Well, suddenly I heard a voice, and it wasn't something that was in my head. It was not anything that was imagined. It was a very audible voice. And it said to me, "Look ahead, watch out." And just as I did that, I spotted a truck that was stopped dead in my tracks. And so at that moment, I twisted the wheel and I swerved around it and just missed it by inches. And as I drove along a little further, it suddenly dawned on me what happened. And so I looked up in the rearview mirror, thinking, was there somebody sitting in the back seat? Of course, I knew that there wasn't. I was alone. But I kept looking there and looking around, and of course, no one was there. And immediately I realized that voice saved my life. Now, whether it was God or a guardian angel, I can't say, but it was supernatural, and it did save my life. Well, that got me interested in the Bible, and so I decided to start reading it on my own. And eventually I got involved into a Bible study group, and had done that for a couple of years. And I happened to be telling the pastor of our church that I was studying the Bible and sharing some stuff with him. And he said to me, he said, "Well, why don't you start a Bible study of your own?" And at first I was a little hesitant because, I had never done anything like that. But it did dawn on me that, maybe what had happened in my life, that miracle, was because I had a purpose, and that purpose would have been to teach the Word of God. And so I went ahead and I did that. And it was sort of interesting because as I had gone through some of the books during this Bible study, I had gotten into the book of Kings. And I'm going to take you there right now because this passage really hit home in regards to what had happened. So we're going to go to 1 Kings, and we're going to be looking at chapter 19, and there's just going to be maybe about 3 verses that I'm going to take a look at. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Now, that description of that particular voice was exactly what I had heard. That whisper, that gentle voice that warned me of that, what was about to occur, and indeed saved my life. So you see how important it is to be able to recognize in the various things that goes around you that God has a hand, that He may be guiding you. In my case, like I said, there was nothing special about me. I'm no special than anyone else. But He obviously had a purpose. And that purpose may have been what I'm doing today. Because you see, after that, not only did I teach at that one parish, but I taught in another parish. And then later, when moving into the Central Coast, I was involved in a Bible study here and started a Bible conference. And eventually, just before the pandemic, I was teaching a new class on prophecy in the Bible. So God had a purpose for me. And it could very well have been that my life was spared for that purpose. And I made it my goal, or that through Amos chapter 8, verse 11, it says that the famine in the end times is not for bread, but for hearing the word of God. And so I sort of latched on to that and realizing that people are not getting the Word of God regularly like they should, or have no inkling really to get into it, but maybe once they do, they will find an interest and go on and study on their own. And so that's basically what all these videos are about too. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I ask that you give a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also that you subscribe and ring that notification bell. Again, as I mentioned numerous times before, YouTube looks at the number of viewers that come on, and so the more viewers, the more subscriptions we have, the more they distribute it out. So you too will become a partner in getting the word out to those that may need it. So again, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I thank you for viewing, and I hope to see you again soon.